That card is not going to open a building that does not exist, Captain Luke Harrington said, standing 20 feet behind her on the wind-scoured flight line. The warning siren rolled across the Nevada base in long, metallic waves, cutting through the morning heat and bouncing off rows of parked aircraft. Tower control had lost 2 primary channels in less than 4 minutes. The secondary radar was showing ghost returns. On the main runway, flight crews waited beside grounded jets while squadron officers argued over a frozen scheduling board that still insisted everything was normal. At the far end of the tarmac stood a steel structure everyone called abandoned, its faded sign barely readable beneath dust and sun damage. Hangar 12, decommissioned. Rebecca Carter stood in front of it without looking back. She was 33, white, pale blonde hair pinned tight beneath a navy cap, her face beautiful in a way that felt carved rather than soft, calm blue-gray eyes fixed on the old access panel beside the door. She did not wear a flight suit. She did not carry a helmet. Her uniform was simple, clean, and almost too quiet for a place ruled by engines, call signs, and pilot swagger. On her chest, half hidden by the strap of a black document bag, was a silver badge shaped like folded wings around a locked star. In her right hand was a black emergency card with a thin silver edge. It looked too small for the moment. That was why they had laughed at it. For hours earlier, Derek Miles had called it a gift card. Connor Blake had asked whether it came with coffee points. Even Luke, one of the best pilots on the base, had smiled and told her the Navy did not run classified air operations on plastic legends. Rebecca had not defended the card then. She did not defend it now. Behind her, the tower channel cracked through a portable radio and dissolved into static. A crew chief shouted that the runway status board had gone dark. Someone from operations called for a manual reset. The base was trying to solve a locked door with tools that belonged to the wrong hallway. Rebecca raised the emergency card toward the old scanner. Luke stepped closer, his voice tighter now. "Carter, if you trigger a dead system and lock us out of that service road, I will have to report it." She finally turned her head just enough for him to see her profile. No anger, no fear, only the controlled patience of someone who had already heard the wrong answer and moved past it. Then right clearly, "Captain." She placed the card against the scanner. Nothing happened. For 2 seconds, the flight line seemed to hold its breath. Derek gave a nervous laugh from behind a fuel cart. Then the access panel woke with a single white line. A mechanical voice, buried behind years of silence, spoke from inside the steel wall. "Black clearance accepted." Rebecca looked at Luke as the ground beneath Hangar 12 began to hum. "Step back." 4 hours before Hangar 12 answered her card, Rebecca Carter had arrived at the Nevada base in a white shuttle van, with tinted windows and no escort worth noticing. The flight line was already alive with motion. Ground crews checked fuel caps, pilots crossed the tarmac in flight suits, and the desert wind pushed heat across the concrete in visible waves. Rebecca stepped out wearing a simple Navy uniform, a black document bag over one shoulder, and a calm expression that made her look out of place among people trained to move fast and speak louder than engines. She paused near the edge of the ramp, not to admire the aircraft, but to read the base the way other people read a screen. She noticed the tower antenna rotating with a faint delay. She noticed a maintenance cart parked too close to the old perimeter road. She noticed the dust pattern around Hangar 12, disturbed near the access panel even though everyone claimed the building had been dead for years. Her emergency card rested inside a flat pocket behind her identification, black with a silver edge, heavier than it looked. The silver wing badge on her chest caught the sun once, then disappeared beneath the strap of her bag. At the operations desk, a young airman looked at her orders, frowned, and called for Captain Luke Harrington. Luke arrived with a helmet tucked under one arm, flight suit zipped halfway, confidence moving a step ahead of him. He was 37, white, sharp-featured, and known across the squadron for keeping his aircraft cleaner than inspection standards and his schedule tighter than tower windows. He glanced at Rebecca's uniform, then at the emergency access note on the order sheet. "You are the liaison from Naval Systems?" "Emergency aviation continuity," she said. "That is a long way of saying paperwork." His tone was not openly rude, just polished enough to hide the edge. Rebecca accepted the folder back, only until the paperwork opened something. Luke studied her for another second, then gave a small smile. "We are running live taxi drills today." If you need archive access, operations can help you after the flight block. I need to inspect Hangar 12 before the flight block. Behind him, Derek Miles looked up from a bench and laughed once. Hangar 12? That place is a sunburned storage closet. Connor Blake leaned beside a tool cabinet. Maybe she is here to inventory ghosts. Rebecca looked past them toward the abandoned structure at the far end of the tarmac. Who sealed it? Luke's smile faded into impatience. It was decommissioned before most of this squadron got here. That was not my question. For the first time, Luke did not answer immediately. The wind moved across the ramp, lifting dust around the old hangar door. Rebecca watched it settle in a pattern that told her the seal had not been as untouched as they believed. Luke Harrington had built his reputation on precision. He trusted flight plans because they had margins. He trusted checklists because they had order. He trusted aircraft because every warning light, fuel reading, and pressure gauge told a story he knew how to read. What he did not trust was a quiet woman with no flight suit, no call sign, and an emergency card that looked like it belonged in a locked drawer. He walked Rebecca across the operations floor with Derek and Connor trailing behind at a distance, both enjoying the small theater of watching someone challenge a building nobody respected. The base operations room overlooked the runway through a long panel of heat-streaked glass. Beyond it, jets waited in clean lines under the Nevada sun, their wings bright, their crews efficient, their pilots confident that the day belonged to them. Rebecca studied the room once, then looked to the far monitor showing base infrastructure status. Your continuity map is incomplete, she said. Luke followed her gaze. That map is updated every morning. It does not show the old perimeter power loop. Connor gave a soft laugh. Because old usually means removed. Rebecca turned to him with calm blue-gray eyes. Not always. Derek leaned against a console. Let me guess. Your card opens that too. Luke should have stopped the joke there, but he let it breathe. Not because he disliked Rebecca. Because the room was his, the pilots were his, the schedule was his. And she had arrived speaking as if she knew a deeper version of the base than the people who flew from it every week. Rebecca reached into her document bag and removed a folded paper diagram sealed in a clear sleeve. It was not glossy. It was not digital. The edges were worn from use, and the markings had been made by hand in black and red pencil. Luke looked at it and almost smiled again. We have satellite overlays for that. Your overlays show what was filed, she said. This shows what was built. Mason Keller, the senior technical officer on duty, had been passing behind them with a maintenance tablet when he heard the sentence. He slowed, eyes dropping to the diagram, then to the silver wing badge half hidden on Rebecca's chest. Something in his expression changed, but he said nothing. Luke missed it. Rebecca pointed to Hangar 12 on the paper. If tower control loses primary routing and secondary radar begins returning false movement, the base is supposed to shift through this node. Luke crossed his arms. That node is a sealed hangar. No, it is a door. Derek laughed louder this time. To what? A secret runway under the desert. Rebecca folded the diagram with measured care and slid it back into the sleeve. If you are cleared to know, Captain, you will know before noon. The room went quiet for half a second. Then the first tower channel crackled, dropped, and came back with static where a controller's voice should have been. The static did not last long enough to alarm the whole room, but it lasted long enough for Rebecca to look at Luke and for Luke to understand that she had been waiting for exactly that kind of failure. The tower controller's voice returned after 3 seconds, clipped and strained, reporting a temporary channel drop on primary routing. Operations marked it as a minor fault. Derek called it desert interference. Connor said the tower always complained when the heat got bad before lunch. Luke did not join them. He watched Rebecca instead. She had not moved toward the window or the radio. She had turned toward the infrastructure monitor, eyes scanning the small delay between one system status and the next. There, she said. A secondary radar icon blinked, vanished, then returned 10 degrees off its previous position. No aircraft had moved. No vehicle had crossed the strip. The system corrected itself before anyone could file a concern. Luke saw it anyway. That could be a calibration skip. It could be, Rebecca said. But it is not. Mason Keller stepped closer now, tablet lowered at his side. His attention kept returning to the silver wing badge like a man trying to remember a warning from years ago. Captain, he said carefully, we should probably pull the old maintenance records for 12. Derek looked at him. Major, you cannot be serious. Keller did not look amused. I am very serious when dead systems start predicting live failures. Rebecca walked to the operations desk and placed her black emergency card on the surface. The silver edge caught the light. Connor leaned over and gave a short laugh, though it sounded thinner than before. Still looks like a hotel key. Derek added, maybe if we swipe it twice, breakfast is included. A few pilots smiled, but the room did not laugh the way it had earlier. The tower channel crackled again. This time the scheduling board froze for half a second, long enough for 2 taxi slots to overlap on the display before snapping back to normal. Luke's face hardened. Ground all movement until tower confirms clean routing. Derek straightened. Captain, the drill window is tight. I said ground all movement. The command in his voice ended the argument. Rebecca picked up her card. That is the first correct decision this room has made. Luke turned toward her, pride flashing before discipline buried it. And your next suggestion? Move auxiliary coordination to Hangar 12. There is no auxiliary coordination in Hangar 12. Not for you. The words were not cruel, but they cut through every assumption in the room. Luke stepped closer, lowering his voice. Carter, I do not care what office sent you. You are asking me to reroute a live squadron toward a structure my base records list as inactive. Rebecca held his gaze. Your base records are cleared for your job, not mine. Outside, a warning siren began its first long call across the flight line. The operations room fell still. Rebecca slid the emergency card into her palm and started toward the door. This time, Luke followed. The siren followed them out of operations and across the ramp, stretching over the Nevada base like a warning the desert had been holding back all morning. Heat shimmered above the concrete. Ground crews stood beside parked jets with headsets pressed tight, waiting for instructions that no longer came cleanly through tower control. The scheduling board outside the operations building had gone dark, then rebooted with half its symbols missing. Luke moved quickly, helmet still under one arm, his command voice carrying across the flight line as he ordered all taxi movement held and all auxiliary teams to stand by. Rebecca walked beside him with the same measured pace she had kept since arriving, emergency card in her right hand, black document bag steady against her shoulder. Derek and Connor followed several steps behind, their earlier jokes replaced by the nervous silence of men watching a routine drill become something else. As they approached the far end of the tarmac, Hangar 12 grew larger and stranger. Up close, it did not look abandoned. It looked hidden badly on purpose. Dust covered the faded letters. Old warning paint peeled at the edges. The main doors were sealed by a steel face with no visible handles, no modern keypad, no active status light. Only a narrow access panel set waist-high beside the frame. Luke stopped 20 feet from the door. This building has been off every active map since before I transferred here. Rebecca studied the panel. Active maps are for active people. He looked at her. And you? She did not answer directly. Instead, she brushed dust from the scanner with 2 fingers. Beneath the dirt, a small symbol appeared, the same locked star folded between silver wings that rested on her chest. Major Keller reached them moments later, breathing hard from the walk, but alert. The instant he saw the symbol, he stopped speaking. Luke noticed. Major. Keller's eyes stayed on Rebecca's badge. Captain, I need you to listen very carefully. Derek stepped closer. What is going on? Keller ignored him. If she carries silver wing clearance, she does not request access from this squadron. She activates access over it. The words settled over the group harder than the siren. Luke turned back to Rebecca, seeing the badge now not as decoration, but as a warning he should have understood. Carter, he said quietly, who are you? Rebecca placed the emergency card against the dark panel. For 2 seconds, nothing happened. Connor let out a breath that almost became another joke. Then the panel lit white. A mechanical voice spoke from inside the wall. Black clearance accepted. Continuity protocol armed. The ground gave a low hum beneath their boots. Dust slid down the steel door in thin lines. Rebecca finally looked at Luke. I am the person they send when the base forgets it has a second heartbeat. The steel door did not open outward. It separated down the center with a slow hydraulic shudder, then sank into the floor as if the entire front of Hangar 12 had been waiting years for permission to disappear. Cold air rolled out first, dry and filtered, carrying the faint smell of sealed metal, rubber, and old electricity. The siren outside continued its long warning, but inside the opening there was another sound, lower and steadier. Systems waking beneath the ground. Luke Harrington took one step forward and stopped. The structure he had dismissed as inactive was not a storage building at all. Beyond the threshold, a ramp sloped downward into a facility carved under the desert, lit by white guide strips along the floor and amber emergency lamps overhead. To the left, an analog coordination room sat behind reinforced glass, its consoles covered but powered, its wall maps marked with runway lines that did not appear on any public base diagram. To the right, a sealed service lane curved into darkness beneath the tarmac. Farther below, barely visible through the opening, rested the nose of an aircraft under a gray cover, its shape too clean, too angular, and too unfamiliar to belong to any squadron Luke knew. Derek forgot to breathe out. Connor whispered, "What is this place?" Major Keller answered before Rebecca did. Continuity hangar. Built for base control failure, blackout routing, and emergency aviation recovery. Luke turned toward him. "You knew?" Keller shook his head. "I knew rumors. I did not have clearance." Rebecca stepped across the threshold, and the floor lights brightened ahead of her, one section at a time. Her silver wing badge caught the light now, no longer hidden by dust or doubt. "Primary tower is unstable," she said. "Secondary radar is returning false position shifts. If this continues, your pilots will have aircraft, crews, and fuel, but no trusted coordination layer." Luke followed her in, the pride in his face giving way to calculation. He was still a pilot. Once he saw a system, he wanted to understand how it flew. "Can this facility take control?" "Not control," Rebecca said. "Continuity. It gives the base a clean voice when the tower loses its own." She crossed to a covered console and removed the canvas with one smooth pull. Beneath it sat old switches, hardline radios, paper strip printers, and a sealed authentication port shaped exactly for her emergency card. Outside, the warning siren cut off, replaced by broken tower chatter over Luke's handheld radio. Rebecca inserted the card. The console woke in white. A map of the base appeared on the wall, not frozen, not delayed, not polished for convenience. Alive. Luke looked at the screen, then at Rebecca. The woman he had mistaken for paperwork had just opened the part of the base built for the day everyone else ran out of options. The continuity room did not ask for applause. It asked for discipline. Rebecca moved through the old console layout like someone returning to a language she had never forgotten, checking hardline status, runway relays, tower bypass, and emergency coordination channels with quiet speed. Luke stood beside the map wall, watching live positions return one by one in clean white marks across the base diagram. No ghost returns. No frozen slots. No overlapping taxi paths. The room was older than the systems upstairs, but it was not weaker. It was simpler, harder to confuse, and built for the exact morning everyone else had believed would never come. Major Keller removed dust covers from the second console, while Derek and Connor waited near the doorway, no longer joking, no longer sure where they belonged. Rebecca looked over her shoulder. "Captain, I need your squadron call signs and current aircraft status." Luke answered immediately. "Falcon 1 through 6, all parked, crews standing by, no taxi movement. Fuel status, green across the block. Crew readiness, held, awaiting verified control." Rebecca nodded and keyed the hardline microphone. Her voice entered the hangar system steady and low. "Base continuity to flight line. This is black runway coordination. All aircraft remain parked. All crews hold position. Confirmed by call sign only." For a moment, there was only static. Then one voice answered. "Falcon 1 holding." Another followed. "Falcon 2 holding." One by one, the squadron checked in. Luke listened as his pilots responded to a system he had not known existed, guided by a woman he had mistaken for an administrative delay. Outside, the heat kept rising over the concrete, but inside the hidden facility the operation began to breathe again. Keller pointed to the secondary routing board. Tower still dropping packets. Rebecca adjusted 2 switches and watched the hardline grid stabilize. Then tower listens. It does not lead. Luke glanced at her. "You have done this before." It was not really a question. Rebecca kept her eyes on the board. "Once." The word was too small for the weight behind it. "Connor," from the doorway, looked toward the covered aircraft below. Is that part of the continuity protocol too? Rebecca did not turn. No, Derek swallowed. Then what is it? Luke expected her to refuse the question. Instead, she removed the emergency card from the console for half a second, just long enough for the silver edge to catch the white light. That is why Hangar 12 stayed forgotten, she said. The answer quieted the room. The hidden aircraft remained under its gray cover, silent, sealed, and unnecessary unless the day became worse. Rebecca reinserted the card, and the map brightened again. Today is not about secrets, she said. Today is about keeping people safe while the primary system learns humility. Luke looked at the card, the badge, and the woman standing between old switches and a live base map. For the first time, he understood that clearance was not decoration. It was responsibility carried without an audience. Rebecca did not rush the room into confidence. She made it earn every step. First, she routed all parked aircraft through hardline confirmation, then verified ground crew locations through the old service relays, then placed the entire flight line under a clean hold that did not depend on the tower's failing channels. Each action was small, precise, and almost plain to watch, but the effect spread across the base like order returning to a crowded room. On the wall map, every aircraft stopped flickering. Every service vehicle held in its marked lane. Every radio check came through with call sign, position, and status. Luke stood at the second console now, reading responses as Rebecca fed them into the continuity board. He was still the squadron's captain, but for the first time that morning, he was following someone else's system without resentment. Falcon 3 confirms parked, he said. Falcon 4 confirms crew clear of taxi lane. Rebecca marked both with white tabs. Good. Keep them speaking one at a time. The old lines do not reward ego. Derek and Connor worked near the doorway under Keller's supervision, relaying printed strip updates back to operations upstairs. Neither man mentioned gift cards, coffee points, or plastic legends. The emergency card sat locked in the authentication port, glowing faintly along its silver edge, small and quiet in the center of a room no one had believed existed. Outside, Tower Control attempted another reset. The live feed on Rebecca's board showed the failure before the tower admitted it. A red fault light appeared, blinked twice, then shifted to amber as the continuity system absorbed the load. Luke looked up. It caught the dropout. It was built to catch what people deny until it embarrasses them, Rebecca said. Keller allowed himself the smallest smile. Then the covered aircraft below the glass shifted slightly as the ventilation system came fully online, the gray fabric lifting along one sharp wing edge. Connor stared. Rebecca saw him looking and spoke before curiosity became a distraction. Leave it covered. He straightened. Yes, ma'am. The words came naturally now. Luke heard the difference. So did Rebecca, though she gave no sign that it mattered. Minutes later, the final tower channel stabilized under continuity supervision. The main runway board upstairs returned clean, but nobody trusted it blindly anymore. Luke keyed the hard line. Flight line, this is Captain Harrington. Continue hold until black runway releases you. He paused after saying it, aware of what the words meant. He had just placed his squadron under the authority of the protocol he had mocked and the woman he had doubted. Rebecca looked at the live map, then at the status lights. All white. No false movement. No broken channel. No hidden delay. Release auxiliary hold, she said. Keep primary tower monitored, not trusted. Luke repeated the order. Across the tarmac, crews moved again, slower, cleaner, and safer than before. Hangar 12 stayed open behind them, not as a legend, but as proof. By late afternoon, the Nevada heat had softened into gold, and the base no longer sounded like a place fighting itself. The tower channels were stable. The runway board was clean. Ground crews moved with measured confidence, and the squadron resumed operations under a continuity watch that nobody questioned now. Hangar 12 remained open at the edge of the tarmac, its steel doors lowered into the floor, its white guide lights reaching down into the hidden facility like a secret finally allowed to breathe. Rebecca Carter stood at the continuity console long enough to confirm the last fault report, then removed the black emergency card from the authentication port. The map wall dimmed from active command to standby. The covered aircraft below remained untouched, its sharp outline hidden again beneath gray fabric. Some mysteries were not meant to be solved by curiosity. Some were kept for the day responsibility required them. Luke Harrington watched as she slid the card back into its flat pocket and covered the silver wing badge beneath the strap of her document bag. Without the glowing console and the open hangar behind her, she looked almost like she had that morning. Quiet navy uniform, pale blonde hair pinned beneath her cap, calm blue-gray eyes, beautiful face unreadable beneath the desert light. But no one on that flight line saw her the same way anymore. Derek stood near the doorway with a stack of printed strip reports in his hand, unable to meet her eyes for more than a second. Connor cleared his throat and said, "Ma'am, I was wrong about the card." Rebecca looked at him. "You were wrong about what you thought small meant." He nodded, and for once, silence suited him better than another joke. Major Keller gave Rebecca a respectful nod as she stepped back onto the ramp. Luke followed her into the sunlight, stopping beside the faded sign that still claimed Hangar 12 was decommissioned. The word looked foolish now, painted on a door that had just carried the base through its own blind spot. "Carter," Luke said. She paused. He stood straighter, not as a pilot protecting his pride, but as an officer accepting the cost of it. "I judged the card before I understood the mission." Rebecca's expression did not soften, but neither did it harden. "That is why clearance is earned before access is granted." The sentence left no wound, only a mark. Luke looked toward the tower, then toward the aircraft waiting in clean formation. "And respect." Rebecca adjusted the strap over her badge. "That should be earned before judgment is spoken." She walked away along the edge of the flight line, document bag at her side, emergency card hidden again, silver wing covered. No applause following her, no speech required. Behind her, Hangar 12 began to close, steel rising slowly from the floor until the secret disappeared back into dust and sunlight. But the people who had seen it open would remember. They would remember the card they mocked, the woman they underestimated, and the quiet truth waiting behind a door they were never cleared to see.